an Indian who surrendered to the Ukrainians, explosives found in the family of a war criminal, and a scandal surrounding Eurovision. These are just a few of the topics you'll see on our broadcast. Right now you're with TSN. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and definitely leave comments about anything that interests you. And here are a few more topics from today's episode. A horrific double murder. He destroyed his closest loved ones.
I will separate my dear wife from you. You will. Why? Just tell me. Why, I ask you.
The 9-year-old girl who was stabbed by her father shouldn't have been in the house where it all happened at all. Putin dreams of immortality.
Human organs can be transplanted continuously.
How Russia is spending billions of rubles to prolong the life of its dictator. And how the whole world found out about the Kremlin's top-secret project. Exhausted, but just saved.
They were hungry, they were little.
How new residents appeared at the bear sanctuary in Lviv region and what will happen to them next. Russia is trying to sever Ukraine's critical artery and turn cold and darkness into weapons. Moscow aims to disrupt the heating season and paralyze the work of Ukrzaliznytsia. This was reported by Deputy Prime Minister Oleksiy Kuleba after another attack on the locomotive depot and rolling stock. At night, Russia attacked energy facilities and railway infrastructure in the Poltava and Sumy regions. As a result, more than 1,000 households in Poltava and nearby settlements were left without power. 10,000 subscribers are without electricity in Kharkiv as well. Last night, the enemy launched 25 attack drones at the city's critical infrastructure. During the day, drones struck railway infrastructure in the Nizhyn district, which is in the Chernihiv region, and near Pryluki, the occupiers hit an energy facility, leaving more than 60,000 consumers without power. In the region, scheduled power outages are in effect due to previous Russian attacks. The city of Shostka in the Sumy region is gradually but steadily coming out of blackout. For several days, the city lived without electricity, gas and water due to damage to the gas distribution station, water supply and energy facilities. The Russians shelled the community's critical infrastructure for several days, and on Saturday they also struck the railway station, resulting in 1 person killed and 8 more wounded. As a result of the terrorist attacks, in some places there was no electricity for almost a week, so the community set up 125 resilience centers where residents, including many children, were provided with hot meals and those in need received psychological assistance. During this time, nearly 2,500 city residents turned to the mobile rescue points. At present, gas supply has been almost completely restored, and internet and phone service are also available in most parts of the city. However, on some streets, work is still ongoing to reconnect houses and restore electricity and gas supply to homes. For children and vulnerable groups, food is being prepared today in field kitchens by the State Emergency Service. For those who cannot get to the distribution points on their own, food is delivered by volunteers or neighbors.
My neighbor is disabled. She couldn't come. She has a cane, so I took food for 2 neighbors and myself. Neighbors. We'll come tomorrow.
And hot, delicious meals. Thank you so very much. It's truly so nice that we're not left completely alone here. That someone is genuinely taking good care of us.
Currently, 100% of the power supply is insured in accordance with the relevant electricity supply schedules, and further work is being carried out to restore and stabilize the energy system. Work is ongoing, and very soon 100% gas supply will also be ensured.
In September, Ukrainian unmanned aerial complexes attacked more than 66,000 Russian targets. This is almost 11% more than in August, according to the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksiy Syrsky. He added that this is our response to the constant attempts to break through our defenses. Wherever they do succeed, it is only at the cost of enormous losses. Meanwhile, there are new changes on the battle map. The enemy has captured Malivka in the Dnipropetrovsk region and advanced near Novoyanivka and Okhotniche. This is in Zaporizhzhia, Voronove in Dnipropetrovsk region, and Bilahora in Donetsk region. This was reported by the analytical portal Deep State. The largest number of Russian assaults took place in the Pokrovsk, Novopavlivsk, and Toretsk sectors. In total, nearly 100 attacks were repelled there. Overall, over the past day, there were 193 combat engagements along the entire front line. The defense forces struck 7 areas where enemy personnel were concentrated. In particular, a Russian command post was hit, and soldiers of the 141st Separate Mechanized Brigade shared exclusive footage of the assault on the village of Chernihiv in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Analysts from Deep State reported on its clearing just a few days ago. There, the armed forces eliminated 50 occupiers and captured 8 more.
The village of Chernihiv has been liberated. A barrage was unleashed.
The occupying country is expanding the geography of recruiting foreigners. During a battle, soldiers of Ukraine's 63rd Brigade captured a 22-year-old Indian national. His name is Manjoti Sahil Mohammed Hussein. He studied in Russia and was sentenced there to 7 years in prison after being caught with drugs. The foreigner was offered a 1-year contract with the armed forces in exchange for not serving his prison term. He says the training at the training ground was brief. They let them fire an assault rifle a few times and throw a grenade. During the very first assault, Manjoti surrendered, insisting that he didn't have time to kill anyone and wanted to switch to the Ukrainian side. Now he dreams of being deported to India.
Cato, he says, 100,000. Cato, he says, 500,000. Cato, he says, 500,000. Dive. We just arrived here for 3 days. I didn't want that war. I just wanted to run. There's no excuse for that. I'm the one. Lucia, I'm coming here. Cherms? If possible, brother, then let's do it at my place.
On World Cotton Day, unidentified drones flew into Russia. As a result of the strikes, Belgorod was plunged into darkness, and the city's residents complain about living by candlelight. Meanwhile, in the Leningrad region, in the city of Kharkiv, one of the largest oil pumping stations stopped working after being hit by drones. This station provided about 40% of the total capacity. It will take the plant about a month to restore it. And a new record, the drones covered 2,000 kilometers and struck Tyumen. And despite statements from the local authorities that there were no hits, locals recorded a massive deployment of emergency services heading toward the Antipinsky oil refinery. And in temporarily occupied Crimea, the Feodosia motor depot is on fire. For the second day in a row, they have been unable to put out the fire there. The flames are spreading to other tanks, the area is shrouded in acrid smoke, and the local authorities are pretending as if nothing is happening. Apparently, this is the kind of greeting that was sent to Putin from Ukraine, to the war criminal. Today, he turned 73 years old. Putin dreams of immortality and works on it on the very day when the person most hated by Ukrainians turns 73. A number of European publications are releasing articles describing what is one of the most secretive projects in Russia, yet one that the whole world knows about. Putin is searching for the elixir of immortality, and he spares no expense, spending hundreds of billions of rubles from the Russian budget on it. Maria Vasilyeva has more details on all of this.
At the beginning of September, by chance, journalists' cameras captured what Putin and Xi Jinping were talking about during a protocol walk at the so-called parade of dictators. They were enjoying their ice cream. This moment was broadcast live on Chinese television. Due to a mistake by the technical staff, a microphone attached to the clothing of one of the dictators was forgotten to be turned off, and what was not meant for outsiders' ears ended up on air. The audio wasn't very clear, but artificial intelligence capable of lip-reading helped to decipher the conversation. Both, as it turned out, are very interested in the possibilities of modern medicine that could help extend their lives.
In the past, people very rarely lived to be 70 years old. But today, at the age of 70, you're still considered a child, Putin.
With the development of biotechnology, human organs will be able to be transplanted continuously, and people will be able to live in increasingly younger bodies and even achieve immortality.
According to
forecasts, in this century there is a chance to live up to 150 years.
Soon after, the Chinese television company removed this video from everywhere, but it had already spread around the world. Today, on his 73rd birthday, Putin really does look much better than many other Russian men. His concern for his health borders on obsession. He has a staff of personal doctors. He closely follows medical breakthroughs, and during the COVID epidemic, he isolated himself from everyone for many months to avoid catching the virus. On the rare occasions he met with others, he did so at a many-meter-long table. And when French President Macron traveled to Moscow before the invasion to try to persuade Putin to abandon the war, the Kremlin apparatus tried to force him to take a coronavirus test. Macron refused at the time.
Healthcare, and perhaps to some extent, maybe even in improving the man himself.
Operation 150 Years. The unofficial name refers to a number of projects overseen by Putin's eldest daughter, Maria Vorontsova. In Russia, where the average life expectancy for men is 68 years, hundreds of billions of rubles are being spent on scientific research to prolong the life of just one person, the Russian dictator himself. Vorontsova's new medical company, which specializes in nuclear medicine projects, made nearly 1 billion rubles in 2022 alone. After information about Vorontsova's scientific businesses appeared in the media, it began to be classified. Scientific research related to the study of aging continues to be generously funded by the Russian budget, even though it is bursting at the seams. Funding for these programs has increased sixfold, reaching 172 million rubles. After all, they say Putin plans to stay in the Kremlin for at least another decade, until 2036, or even longer if science and unlimited organ transplants work out just as he hopes. Maria Vasilyeva, TSN 1+1.
Lately, we've been rooting hard for corruption in Russia, especially when it comes to research in this area. Will the billions allocated for Putin's immortality be stolen? How much longer will the world have to endure the Kremlin dictator? And is it even still the same Putin or one of his doubles? Be sure to write all your theories, even the most unbelievable ones, in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, like and subscribe to the channel. The TSN broadcast continues. He has almost made a decision on whether to sell Tomahawks to Ukraine. The President of the United States answered journalists' questions about whether he has decided on Kyiv's request for the supply of long-range Tomahawk missiles. Volodymyr Zelensky requested them during the President's meeting in New York last month. And now Donald Trump has said that he has almost made a decision, but still wants to find out exactly how these missiles are intended to be used. He added that he does not want to allow an escalation. Let me remind you, Putin, commenting on the possibility of supplying this weapon to Ukraine, said that it would destroy relations between Russia and the United States.
I have almost made a decision already if you think about it. But yes, I think I want to find out what they are going to do with them. Where are they going to launch them? Maybe I should have asked these questions.
2 years since the attack by Hamas terrorists, which dramatically changed the situation in the Middle East. Today, Israel is commemorating the victims of the militants' attack on October 7th. Across the country, memorial events and moments of silence are being held in memory of more than 1,200 compatriots who were killed. Another 250 people were taken hostage by the militants at that time. Tel Aviv's response to the terrorist attack was devastating. The region now resembles ruins, and according to various estimates, several thousand Palestinians have been killed by IDF shelling. At the same time as the memorials, negotiations between Hamas and the Israelis for a final ceasefire have been ongoing in Egypt for several days. Is there any chance for it in such a complex Middle Eastern conflict? Oksana Tkachenko investigated.
In the center of Tel Aviv, a minute of silence is held for those killed in the terrorist attack that happened 2 years ago. After those events, the Middle Eastern region changed forever. On the second anniversary of the terrorist attack in Jerusalem, people came out not for the dead, but for the living who are still being held captive by Hamas militants. Almost 50 of them have been held in the Gaza Strip for 2 years, but now it is believed only about 20 people remain. The families of the hostages want to hear at least some information about their loved ones, and the delay by their government only provokes anger. This
marks 2 years of our personal catastrophe, as well as a national catastrophe that is still not over. The war is still ongoing, and above all, we have 48 hostages who are still waiting to return home to their families and to Israel. And today, unfortunately, we must once again make it absolutely clear that this must be the top priority, and that all of them must be returned immediately. And as a result, also end the war.
In Kibbutz Re'im, which suffered from the attack, the relatives of the victims came to the memorial with flowers to honor the deceased. 57-year-old Orid Baron, whose daughter was killed during the attack, still recalls that day with horror. At the music festival, Yuval was with her fiancé Moshe. They were supposed to get married on February 14th on Valentine's Day. Since they were found together, both families decided to hold a joint funeral. They are buried side by side because they were never apart. She was my heart, and they took it from me. I will never be able to be happy and whole again. It was near Re'im on October 7th, 2023, that the Supernova Music Festival took place, which became the main target of the attackers. The event was held 5 kilometers from the Gaza Strip. The militants began their attack with a rocket barrage and then easily broke through Israel's borders, starting to kill soldiers and attack civilians. As a result of that attack, more than 1,200 people were killed. About 250 people were taken hostage and brought to the Gaza Strip. The Israeli army recovered from the unexpected strike within a few days, drove out the terrorists, and the government decided to strike the Gaza Strip in response. At first, they attacked from the air, using planes and artillery, and later launched a full-scale ground offensive. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that he wants to completely destroy the Hamas group. But the cost of such a decision turned out to be high. Such military actions, which began in the Middle East, have not been seen in the last half-century. Entire neighborhoods in the Gaza Strip have been virtually reduced to ashes. According to Palestinian sources, the number of victims as a result of the Israeli offensive has exceeded 67,000. The Palestinian region has been effectively besieged by the Israelis. Access to humanitarian sites was closed. A real famine began among the population. A number of international organizations are already calling Tel Aviv's anger and revenge disproportionate to the harm that has been inflicted on the local population. The UN Commission has officially recognized that Israel in its actions has reached the point of genocide and has already committed 4 out of 5 crimes that are classified as genocide under international law.
It has been 2 years that we have been living in fear, in horror, displacement and destruction. We are living a hard life, filled with bitterness and suffering. We hope that thanks to these new negotiations we will achieve a ceasefire and a final end to the war. We are exhausted by this journey, and these have been 2 very difficult years for us.
It is noteworthy that it is precisely on the anniversary of that terrorist attack that both sides have finally come as close as possible to peace negotiations. With the support of the United States, Qatar, and Egypt, the parties to the conflict have been discussing a ceasefire for 2 days in a row in the resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh. The plan currently on the table for the delegations was proposed by US President Donald Trump. It consists of 20 points. Among the main points is the return of Israeli hostages, both living and deceased, within 72 hours after an agreement is reached. In turn, Tel Aviv must release Palestinian prisoners from its jails. The complete disarmament of Hamas militants, their disbandment and their departure from the country. Transfer of control over the Gaza Strip to a temporary transitional administration under the supervision of the Americans and the British. Israel must also fully withdraw its troops from the region in stages. The head of the White House, commenting on the negotiation process, is confident. Hamas has made minor concessions in the negotiations.
I think we have made tremendous progress. And yes, the people of Israel want this to happen. But people are handcuffed. I mean, you can see tens of thousands of people in Israel. They really want to get the hostages back. And they really want this to end. And I think that now, regarding Hamas, all I can say is that things are fine with them. We have a very, very good chance to actually reach a comprehensive deal. And this will be a long-term agreement.
Egyptian media report that the first round of negotiations took place on a positive note. Arab countries mediating the talks are urging Hamas to accept this proposal, which may turn out to be the last one. The militants have indeed publicly agreed to release the hostages. But regarding the other points, such as disarmament, they are requesting further consultations. Since according to analysts, the hostages are the only trump card the militants have in these negotiations, and as both sides do not have much trust in each other, the negotiation process could break down at any moment. Oksana Tkachenko, TSN 1+1.
Hungary has no moral obligation to support Ukraine's accession to the EU. Viktor Orban publicly complains about Volodymyr Zelensky. The Hungarian Prime Minister wrote on the social network X that the Ukrainian president is allegedly using a tactic of moral blackmail to force countries to support his military efforts and accession to the European Union. According to Orban, his country has no moral obligation to support Ukraine's European integration, and he recalled a poll conducted in Hungary regarding support for Ukraine's EU membership. Its results, he claims, showed that the majority of Hungarians do not support it. This decision, although the questions in this poll were formulated rather provocatively. In particular, there were statements about the threats posed by Ukraine's accession to the European Union. Orban himself says that they do not want to be in the same union as Ukrainians because their fate is to be alongside Russia. In fact, it is precisely because of this country that the opening of so-called negotiation clusters with the EU for Ukraine is currently being blocked. Our government holds a different opinion, Volodymyr Zelensky. He previously stated that our country will become a member of the EU regardless of the position of the Prime Minister of Hungary. There is an attempt to force Ursula von der Leyen to resign. A vote of no confidence in her European Commission was discussed in the European Parliament on the eve. Both far-right and far-left political forces have complaints against the current president. They accuse her, in particular, of being the architect of Europe's shameful capitulation. Von der Leyen responds to them with calls for unity against the backdrop of heightened anxiety in Europe, as the official put it. Details of the heated debates from Radio Svoboda correspondent Zoriana Stepanenko.
Both political flanks, the right and the left, are calling for the resignation of one of the most pro-Ukrainian politicians in the European Union. And the latter accuses the current European Commission and its leader of lacking transparency and quoting the left's spokesperson of genocide in Gaza. They also say that she surrendered Europe's trade interests to the President of the United States, and in this, the left's complaint coincides with a remark from the other side, the right, and the political force, which is also demanding that Ursula von der Leyen step down. Among the ranks of this group in the European Parliament are allies of Viktor Orban and the French opposition leader Marine Le Pen. Jordan Bardella, a French MEP from the podium in the European Parliament, voiced the right wing's grievances, accusing the head of the European Commission of ignoring the interests of industrialists and farmers, being overly welcoming to migrants, and claiming that under her leadership Europe has supposedly become the world champion of bureaucracy.
Madam President von der Leyen, for many years under your presidency, the European Union has been rushing headlong into the unknown. We will vote with our heads held high for this vote of no confidence. This is a vote against Macron's Europe. Above all, this is a vote for the survival of a Europe of free nations.
Of the 10 minutes allotted by the regulations for her response, the head of the European Commission spoke about family and did not mention by name any specific politician who wants her resignation. However, in her speech, she did mention Vladimir Putin as a key threat to European security, who, according to von der Leyen, wants to split the European Union from within. In this regard, the official called on the members of the European Parliament for unity and promised cooperation in any format so that together they can find answers to all the questions that arise.
Europe is in a heightened state of alert, from reckless incursions into its airspace to attempts at economic coercion, from relentless attacks on Ukraine to direct threats to our own security. To sow discord, spread disinformation, and create scapegoats, anything to pit Europeans against each other. To try to weaken our vigilance while we are caught fighting among ourselves, a trap, and we simply cannot fall into it.
There will be 2 votes of no confidence against the European Commission, as there are 2 motions submitted by different political groups. However, both proposals are doomed to fail. The ranks of von der Leyen's critics are not numerous enough to remove her from office. The formal vote will take place on Thursday. This is already the second attempt in 3 months to remove the current president of the European Commission from office, which in turn could undermine her authority and leadership. From Brussels, Zoriana Stepanenko, Marek Hajduk, Radio Svoboda, especially for TSN 1+1.
Poland has reacted negatively to accusations by former German Chancellor Angela Merkel regarding their role in Russia's aggression against Ukraine. In an interview with a Swiss publication, Merkel stated that she wanted to organize new negotiations between the EU and Vladimir Putin in 2021, but allegedly Poland and the Baltic countries opposed it. She also claimed that the COVID-19 pandemic contributed to Putin's decision to attack Ukraine. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, commenting on these accusations, stated that this is just as untrue as Merkel's claim in her memoirs that supposedly none of the Central European countries protested against Nord Stream. According to Sikorski, the former chancellor simply forgot about their opposition. The head of the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs also responded to the interview, stating that placing responsibility on their country for Russia's aggression is not only inappropriate but also wrong, and that the real reason for the war lies in Putin's unwillingness to accept the collapse of the USSR, and in the fact that the West ignored warning signs, and he also blamed Merkel for misjudging the cost of economic cooperation with the Kremlin and by facilitating the launch of the Nord Stream gas pipeline, increasing her country's dependence on Russian energy resources.